Hello, everybody. This is Joseph P. Farrell. I'm a little late. Usually I do these fireside chats on Thursday, but it is Friday morning, August 26th. I'm looking out my window. It's a sunny, beautiful day. I have a little visitor, a bird, looking in the window. Anyway, I do have a couple of announcements and then a comment on this last week's earthquake because I'm sure many of you are already thinking what I'm thinking. Anyway, the two announcements are I had my first TV interview right here, as a matter of fact, in my home for my good friend Richard Syrett up in Canada. So for those of you who are up in Canada, I will be on his show, which is called The Conspiracy Show. Sometime he said he and his producer in October. The interview is about, I'd say maybe 45 minutes long. So I hope you'll all watch The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett. He's a really good guy. He's a great interviewer, great host, and I enjoy being on his shows a lot. So give Richard's show a visit. Anyway, the other bit of news I had was also TV related. I was contacted earlier this week by a very well known television show in this country wanting me to do, I'm not going to say which one it is, but in this country to do an interview with them. So hopefully we'll see about that before too long, and I'll keep everybody posted. Also, final announcement. This coming month in September, Daniel and I again are going to be testing our software program that we're going to get for the video chat conference that we would like to have hopefully before the year is out. It's a lot of work to set up, folks, and I appreciate your patience. But keep looking on my Facebook page, keep looking on the website, and also I'll make announcements here because we do want to schedule a free kind of video chat with me where you will be able to see me. I'll be able to see you. You'll be able to interact with me directly testing this software. So please keep your eyes open for that because we're going to be using a slightly different software for that than we do for our normal video chats. All right. Anyway, I'm sure most of you are aware that an unusual event happened this last week, and that event was the earthquake that struck Virginia. And like most of you, my mind anymore, whenever there's an earthquake, my mind tends to run to the idea that it may have been artificial. And I am blogging about this in the coming couple of weeks, folks. So if you miss my points on this, I'll raise them again. Now, this earthquake was very unusual because, to my mind anyway, because it occurs in an interesting context and it occurs in an interesting location. So in other words, my methodology when I look at earthquakes is to see, number one, does normal seismic phenomena, do normal seismic phenomena explain the earthquake adequately? If so, then we can rule out, unless we have persuasive contextual evidence not to do so, then we can rule out the idea that the earthquake was artificial. The second thing I tend to look at is the context in which an earthquake occurs. If you recall, my principal reason for entertaining the suspicion that the Japanese quake and tsunami may have been artificial were the political context in which that quake occurred. We had Japan with recent elections a year ago bringing in a new ruling party, the first time since the end of World War II that the ruling party of Japan has basically not been a shill for the United States. The new ruling party of Japan was making noises about getting rid of the American bases and taking a more pro-Asian course, distancing themselves somewhat from the United States. And of course, I mentioned in my blogs about the subject that then Defense Secretary Robert Gates gave what amounted to basically a threat to Japan that if they continued on that course, it would have dire repercussions and consequences. And then, of course, the earthquake struck. So I was willing and am still willing to entertain the idea that the Japan quake was artificial. Excuse me, got to wet my whistle. Now, in the case of the Virginia quake, what we do have is something, I think, that is unusual enough in terms of the seismic phenomena that it points a definite finger in the artificial direction. For one thing, the depth at which it occurred, we're now being told that it was something like 3.7 miles, although if you watch the stories, the depth kept fluctuating up and down. And there's reasons for that. But if you watch the stories, the final depth, as far as I know, is about 3.7 miles, which is a ways down there. All right. And the second problem is this does not occur on any known fault. In other words, it occurs in the middle, so to speak, of a plate. And it's felt over a wide region. In other words, if you were going to send messages, number one, this is not a normal seismic signature of a natural event. This is very, very different. And if you're going to send messages to the United States, you're going to do it at some place like that where the rock will transmit the shock waves to a wide part of the country. It felt, I think, over 22 states. So that aspect, there are other aspects, but that aspect alone raises to my mind considerably the suspicion that somebody may have been sending us messages. Now, the context is what I really find interesting here because the context of this quake is very political. We have the United States and NATO, with the exception of Germany, getting involved in Libya. Now, it's very interesting because the Chinese had major stakes in Libya. And with the exit of the Gaddafi regime, what we're seeing is a realignment of geopolitical interests in that country. China's out. Italy, which had great interest in Libya, Italy is going to come out on the short end of the stick. And the people that are going to have the most influence over that Libyan oil are going to be France, Germany, and the United States, all right? Probably in that order. Now, during all of this, about 2 weeks ago, China and Japan, and that's a key point right there. China and Japan sent a stern warning to the United States to get its debt house in order. China basically saying that the United States better not do anything to devalue the dollar debt assets that China holds. All right. And that was followed up by a statement from China and Japan that the world should look for a new stable reserve currency. So, in other words, a message was sent from China and Japan. And I think if there's any likely culprits, if we look at this event this week as an artificial event, and I'm inclined to do that, quite frankly, if we look at this event as an artificial event, then who are the people sending the message? Well, in my opinion, the context argues most likely for those two countries because let's remember, Japan has access, pardon me, to HARP-like technology, which is the technology I believe that would be used. And in the members only area in the website, I've posted a short paper on how you might be able to use that kind of technology to generate earthquakes, tectonic events. All right. Japan has access to this technology. China, we do not know if they do, but my opinion is the technology is really very simple to engineer. So in all likelihood, my guess would be that China would have something similar as well. So my take, once again, is that this earthquake, I incline to not an extremely strong, but at least a strong possibility that there's something unusual about this earthquake. The depth of it, the fact that it occurs near no known fault lines, and one more thing, it occurred close to a couple of nuclear power plants, which again I find very interesting because, of course, the Japan quake took down those nuclear power plants in Japan. So that too might be a little detail to argue in favor of an artificial event. Anyway, that's it. News and views from the Nefarium for the week of August 26, 2011. If there's anything that comes up again this weekend, I'll be back with more news and views. I'm very busy. I'm finishing up a book for Adventures Unlimited within the next couple of weeks once they get it in their hands. And I do have the cover art, but I'm not going to show you that until they have it in their hands. It's on the way to the printer, and then I'll make the announcement of what the book is about and what the title is. I'm finishing up also another book with Dr. Scott DeHart for Feral House, which will be a couple of more months before we get that finished. And then we are still planning our ebooks and so on and so forth. So keep the dial right here, folks, and see you on the flip side. God bless.